Good morning, Judith.
Good morning, Sonya.
And we have a special guest coach with us today. Good morning, Susie.
Good morning, Sonya, and good morning, Judith, and good morning, audience.
This is life coach Susie Hansley, and she's joining us today. Susie, would you like to tell our audience a bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name is Susie Castellanos Hansley, and I am a life coach. I live in Durham, North Carolina, and I am a life coach who specializes in working with smart, overachieving women with imposter syndrome. So I work with women who are very hardworking and successful, but they don't think it's ever enough and they don't ever feel worthy. And we work on understanding the stories that have led them to think that, and then transform themselves into these badasses who truly love themselves and truly do what matters to them.
Which is a great lead in to today's topic, where we're talking about the truth about happiness. And tell us a little bit about how you came to this topic.
Sure. Yes, it is absolutely a perfect segue because I myself was someone who was pretty unhappy most of my life. I wanted to be happy, but I didn't know how. And I could be happy for small moments, like when somebody gave me approbation or told me that they love me or they thought I was good enough. But if I wasn't getting that approbation, I would feel sad and anxious and unhappy. And so I was somebody who kept pursuing happiness. Like if I get that job or I get into that grad school program or I lost the weight, I'm going to be happy. And then suddenly I'll believe in myself. But every time I would achieve things that I thought would make me happy, I didn't actually feel happy. Yeah. And one of the things we were talking about before the recording is that I do have a PhD from Brown and I was a college professor for a while. But what's funny is that getting into Brown for a PhD program on a full ride didn't miraculously cure me, or even finishing the degree, I felt even worse. So I just believed happiness wasn't something for me. And then I discovered the truth about happiness, which is why I'm so excited to share about this.
So you want to give us a little lead in here? What is the truth about happiness?
Yeah.
So good. Well, so before we can tell you the truth about happiness, let's define happiness, shall we? So one of the things about, there's a lot of definitions. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And I'm going to begin with one of the definitions of happiness that Wikipedia offered. And it's also the general dictionary definition. And basically what I want to use as our working definition of happiness is our current experience of a feeling or an emotion such as pleasure or joy that we're feeling in a particular moment. So it's something you're feeling right now. That is what we want to talk about, happiness.
Right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so here's the part of the secret to happiness before we can get to it is we have to understand the problem with happiness and how we talk about it in society. And the problem is that we think that we should always be happy. Can you relate?
Yes. I mean, and I'm going to generalize here, and I could be wrong, but I know Judith and I, we often talk about what it was like growing up in a Southern culture. And I know, there's a lot of, especially for women in a Southern culture, you're happy, you're pleasant, you're always, you don't cause any discomfort to anyone else because you're always happy and pleasant and quiet as well.
And these were non-spoken cues, am I right?
Yes,
Non-spoken.
exactly. No one ever sits you down in kindergarten and says, now, as a little girl, you're supposed to be sugar and spice and everything nice. They don't, yeah, you're exactly right. But at the same time, if you're not smiling or if you're not acting happy, then people are going to come and question you about it. You need to be behaving in a different way than you are. Why aren't you smiling? Where's that pretty smile?
Oh,
yeah.
So would you say that's how you learned it in your upbringing, is people would expect you to smile and look happy, and then that's how you learned I have to be happy all the time or somebody's going to question me?
Yeah, and I wasn't allowed to express negative emotion, or at least that's the way I read it.
Right.
I could be sad, like if somebody died or if I lost a pet or something, then I could be sad for a certain amount of time, but only for a certain amount of time that was appropriate. But anger was absolutely not allowed.
Mm.
You did not have any kind of negative outburst that resembled anger in my house.
Mm.
How
I
did
don't
you
know,
learn
Judith.
that?
Huh?
Yeah, how did you guys learn that in your house, that you couldn't be angry?
Oh, well, my dad told me.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
Actually, his was, you don't come to me crying. Like, point blank.
Oh,
Like, don't
If
come to me
you
crying.
yeah, if you don't stop crying, I'm going to give you something to cry about.
oh my goodness.
Mhm.
So,
I mean, that's not about happiness, but so the message is conveyed. Emotions, like, don't come to me emotional.
yeah,
And it's better when you are this way. I can
Yes.
handle you any other way, but don't come to me with emotions.
right.
We got that. Yeah.
So I don't know that, how we were really feeling was ever really at the root of the thing, but how we presented, that was the root of the, growing up, that was the root of the thing. And so I took that to mean that because, I liked praise. I liked positive feedback.
Mhm.
So in my mind, that means that I'm always pleasant. I'm always smiling and happy. And, again, it's more of an appearance thing.
Oh, yeah. I haven't thought about, I'm thinking about 12-year-old Judith, 8-year-old, the versions of me and the stories. And it's been, I feel like I've been living so much in the present, like even hearing you talk about, so I'm trying to like tap into, what did I think happiness was?
Yeah, it's not something that I dwell on a whole lot anymore, but that just, when I think about something about in your definition, Susie, that just kind of brought a lot of that back. I did let my children express both positive and negative emotion, but I didn't do it in the way that I would do it like I do it now with my 7-year-old.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a life coach and understand that emotions are just part of the experience.
Yeah. Agreed.
Go ahead, Judith. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, but then in the truth be told is, even as I was parenting my children, I mean, yeah, the positive emotions are way easier to handle than the negative ones. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, who among us haven't parented a child in public, or, when the meltdowns happen and the feelings are coming, and then how we have feelings. That's where my brain's going. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, that's really good. And if you don't mind, I want to bring in the example of this movie where I think it really illustrates what we're talking about. Because it's not necessarily that we're told, be happy, be happy, be happy, but rather we're told, don't be emotional, don't be, doing this thing. So what's the default, right? And the movie that I'm thinking about is the Pixar movie Inside Out. Have you all seen it?
I have seen it. Yeah. I have watched it with my 7-year-old, but it wasn't, I'm not good at focusing at movies.
Okay.
So I was doing other things too, but I did watch it.
What about you, Coach Judith?
Full disclosure. So my son's girlfriend, right, had made a Snapchat that said she was watching Inside Out with my son, right? And so I was like, what is this movie? So I went down, and I Googled it, and I was like, this is a cartoon. And my brain was like, oh, this must, what is this cartoon? And so I saw just enough to see like, oh, this is really cool. This is about feelings. I love it.
Feelings. So let me tell you a little bit about it, and also for our listeners who may not know it, and to encourage you to go watch it because it's a brilliant movie. But basically, it's about an 11-year-old girl named Riley whose family moves from Minnesota to San Francisco, and the movie gives us insight into her 5 main emotions. So they're actually characters in her brain that we get to see. They are joy, sadness, anger, disgust, and fear. So she's got these 5 internal characters. But what's happening in the movie is Joy keeps trying to run the show, and keeps trying to keep sadness from tinging Riley's happy memories that are represented by these large marbles that are tinged in yellow, which is Joy's signature color. Like each sort of emotion in her brain has a particular color. And what happens is anytime sadness touches some of the memory, the formerly yellow marbles representing those memories, they get tinged with sadness's signature color, which is blue, of course. Sadness is blue. But what's happening in her brain, in Riley's brain, is being reflected in her interactions with her parents. And what's happening is that, so they do this disruptive move. The dad is, flipping out because it's like, oh, my startup is having issues. Our furniture is late by a week. She's missing all her friends. And they just keep telling her, keep being our happy Riley. So what's happening outside is she's being told, keep being our happy Riley. In her brain, Joy is like, sadness, get away, get away. And sadness is actually really there. It's like she's feeling sad, but Joy is trying to suppress it. And so what happens in the movie, the whole rest of the movie, is because Joy keeps trying to keep sadness out of the loop, all these disasters happen both inside Riley's emotional, in her emotions, and outside in her life. And then the resolution to the movie comes when Joy realizes that sadness is a key part of Riley's emotional life. Like Joy has to accept that, oh my God, I've been pushing you away because I just want Riley to be happy.
Right.
Even in calling her our happy Riley, so many of us feel, I think, that we're defined. It's not just, you act happy, but that's part of who you are. And to realize that it's really just a byproduct. It's not it's one of the people you can be, but
Yes.
it's a mixture of all of those things. But our culture has put a lot of pressure on us, I think, to be, and I don't know, I can only speak for women, but especially I think for women or little girls are especially supposed to be happy and bring that joy.
Yeah. What do you think, Judith?
Oh, for sure. I thinking about that movie and thinking about poor Riley resisting her feelings for so long, and who among us hasn't been there and denied our feelings, and thinking about the pursuit of happiness, right? That we think of happiness as I think like you were talking about your PhD, Susie, that the pursuit of it would make you happy. And is this where I should drop the definition here that I came up with?
Yeah, I would love for you to do that.
So, down the Googles, there was just pursuit of happiness is defined as the fundamental right mentioned in the Declaration of Independence to freely pursue joy and live life in a way that makes you happy, as long as you don't do anything illegal or violate the rights of others. And so I think because we weren't educated at home about what happiness was, but we were educated at school, like many ways, I think about 12-year-old Judith, 8-year-old Judith being, the Declaration of Independence, right? The pursuit of happiness, like it's my fundamental right. Like I must find this happiness place you speak of.
This elusive elixir.
Yes. And I'm going to be good while I do it. I'm not going to do anything illegal or hurt anybody along my path. I'm just going to be happy.
And make sure you suppress that unhappiness and the anger and all the other things.
Right. There's no mention of that. There's no mention of the suffering and the pain.
And if I could, I just want to, and that's kind of the problem, right? With this idea that we're pursuing happiness, or is that the problem, in the movie with Joy wanting Riley to be happy is it required the suppression of sadness. And not only is that not possible for us as human beings, but by pushing that sadness away is actually what completely disrupts Riley's sense of self and even causes her to run away from home. So it's not even possible, like what you're working against yourself and your true nature when you don't acknowledge the full force of all of you, of your, I find it funny that in the movie, we're told, oh, we have to be happy and let's pursue happiness. But did you notice that the 5 feelings, 4 of them are ostensibly negative. You have joy, but then you have sadness, anger, disgust, and fear.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie was developed with developmental psychologists' input, because that is like the basis. 4 out of 5 of our dominant things when we're born to keep us alive and allow us to survive, evolutionarily for millions of years, is you need to be able to be sad so people will sympathize and try to help you and not leave you out to get eaten by the saber-tooth tiger. Right? Yeah. You need to have anger so you can defend yourself if a saber-tooth tiger is going to attack you. And you need disgust so that if you taste that herb and it doesn't taste right, you're like, I'm not going to eat it because it might be poison. And you need fear when you see the saber-tooth tiger and you're like, you know what? I'm going to run away now. So 4 out of those 5 are really crucial to our survival, and they're built into us. So it's insane that we think we shouldn't feel those or that we should resist them.
Yeah.
It really makes me think, going out on a limb here, that happiness, is that a conscious state of being? It's not even like that in the primitive brain. It's required of higher thinking.
It is in the primitive brain though, because otherwise we wouldn't procreate.
There's the joy. That's right. Pleasure.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
those 5 emotions are like evolutionarily designed, and it's really nice when when we have sex or we eat something tasty, or there's a reason that when you breastfeed you get all these great endorphins that make you feel good, because that's how you keep moving the the species along.
Forward.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about the need to drop into your body to really feel those feelings. When you work with your clients, how do you get them to do that? Because, we are programmed in many ways to just stay in that logic center. We think that's what we're doing, but we want to stay cerebral. How do you work with your clients to kind of drop into those feelings and understand that happiness is just a part of it?
That's a great question. So I think one of the big things that I've been working on is what I've been understanding about when we feel, say, anxiety, or if you have past trauma that maybe is impacting you, there is the brain and the body connection. And I actually heard this on Corinne's podcast when she was interviewing John Acuff on soundtracks. But I loved his quote when he said something about the brain runs, but the heart walks. And I take the heart and the body together. What's going on is in our brain, we're thinking so much about the past and putting it into our future, and thinking about the past and putting it into our future. And it's like, oh my God, but that happened, so that may happen now. But your body is really only in the present. And so the way to interrupt the tizzy in your head when you're freaking yourself out over something is you put your hand over your chest and over your solar plexus, and you close your eyes and you say, am I safe right now? Am I safe right now? And that helps you get present and grounded to where you are right now, because that's the thing that will kill the tizzying of the brain. That the minute you can drop into your body and ask yourself, am I safe right now? Then it interrupts that, and you actually say, yeah, I am. Because I've yet to ever do that and not feel safe.
Yeah, no, right? I do that. I mean, I will do that instinctively, put my hand kind of on my chest there.
But that question has been huge for me, because part of the reason we're afraid and resisting and panicking is because we're afraid of being unsafe. And again, that goes back to evolution. Like, either I'm going to be rejected, I'm going to be abandoned, I'm not going to be good enough. All of those things are coming from thoughts that you have based on past experiences that you're then projecting into your future. Well, if I go out and do that thing, what if they don't like me? And then I'm going to be rejected again. And it all comes to safety. I mean, that is like the foundation. So when you can get into your body and ask yourself, am I safe right now? It helps you start becoming aware of who you really are and what does it really mean to be in your own body, and that you are actually safe right now. Oh, I now have an opening to create something instead of being trapped by my thoughts. And ironically, that's when the happiness comes, when you feel safe right now.
That's so good, Susie. I'm just like, drop the mic.
Yeah. I actually had an experience like this just yesterday journaling. Because we have a lot going on in our lives this summer. We're moving, and my son is building a house, and there's just a lot of moving parts, and none of them are coming together the way I thought they should. And so I've been a little spinning in a little tornado here lately. And as I was journaling, I realized that a lot of my feelings go back to something that really goes back to my childhood, and the instability that I was feeling now was something that was reflected, back then. And so my husband came in, and I was just sitting in front of the computer like this.
Yes.
Just breathing, practicing my breathing, and I 4-7 method, where you inhale for 4 and then hold for 7 and then exhale. And he was like, "What's going on?" And I said, "Do you really want to know?" And yeah, I said, "You really want to know?" And so I told him, I was like, "I am feeling this sense of instability," and we went through the whole thing. And so, he kind of laughed at me, and I said, "So do you love me even when I'm silly?" And he hugged me, just like, "Of
Oh,
course, I love you even when you're silly." And the rest of the day was fantastic. It freed me, because I decided right then that my thought was going to be, these events this summer, everything is going to happen exactly the way it's supposed to. And it is going to come together beautifully. And I let everything else go. I let all those spinny emotions, that were just spinning, I let them go. And I had a fantastic day. And, that that wasn't anything about the destination. I'm nowhere near the destination.
Right.
But the journey, I get to decide what that emotion is that guides it. And my emotion is going to be, it's all going to work out however it's supposed to. Whatever comes up, I'll be safe. I might be silly, but that's okay too. My husband still loves me. And so it's funny that you say that, because that was my experience yesterday, and it was a real change. It was a real click. Sometimes you feel that click in your body, and it was just one of those moments.
That's what I just wanted to kind of highlight, the point that, the body remembers the emotion, right? From when that instability you felt as a child, or that when that memory created that feeling, and allowing that space in your body, the presence of the moment now, to acknowledge and, process through the feeling.
Yes.
was beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what created the opening, right? Like, if you had just kind of stayed in your head being like, oh my God, I feel unstable. But then you put yourself back into the present in your body, and you felt it,
Yeah.
and if like in the future, if you wanted to add that sentence, like, am I safe right now?
Yeah, I love that.
Then it's like, oh, okay. And it literally works on the neurological level, because the left side of the brain is the language center. The right side of the brain is more the feeling center, that's in touch with the body. And when you give the body a chance to relax, it communicates with that left brain, and then the left brain stops being in a tizzy. And then you literally mentally create an opening for you to think a new thought. Like, it is impossible to think a new thought when you are stuck in that cycle. And that's where the body work matters. And it doesn't have to be anything like, oh, I'm going to sit on the mountain and meditate for months.
Yeah.
Like, literally, it literally takes me 5 seconds to say, am I safe right now? And just do that and close my eyes, and then be like, oh, yeah, I am. Okay, let's go.
Judith, you look like you were getting ready to say something.
Oh, I don't even know. My brain was traveling, thinking about being on a mountain when you said that. I was like, it's all good.
You know,
And
the
I was thinking
mountains
about
good too.
chakra. I don't know. I was thinking about chakra energy in the head and like the connection with mountains. And
Yeah. And you live in the mountains, so you're very close to a
I
mountain.
do. Getting out of the head, getting into the body. Because that is, I coach my clients all the time. I'm like, I want your brain where your feet are. Like if your thoughts are not with your feet, like come back and check in, ground with yourself,
Yeah.
Yeah, and we spend so much of our time thinking about either what's happened in the past or where we're going in the future, and it keeps us from that presence.
The other thing I wanted to bring up about the secret or the truth about happiness is that this is something that meant a lot to me once I understood this, and I hope it'll be helpful for other people. But, as someone who was looking outside of myself for happiness, I would then beat myself and judge myself for being somebody who was weak enough that she needed it from someone else. But one of the things that really helped me was when I found out, when I kind of uncovered that even that instinct to look for happiness outside of ourselves is part of evolution. And would you like to hear more about that? Because it's not,
oh yeah,
it is not a personal weakness. So one of the things that, when we've talked about, I'm sure I've heard you talk about the motivational triad. It's like avoid pain, seek pleasure, expend as little energy as possible. Like that's part of the reptile brain. But then like above that is the mammalian brain. And the mammalian brain is, we must survive in the group,
Yeah.
And, we've developed those mirror neurons to see like, oh, how somebody else is feeling, then I'm going to like mirror them. Like we do this unconsciously, right?
Oh yeah.
So completely evolved to be in the group. And what does that mean? We are constantly assessing, am I in the group? Am I in the group? Am I in the group? And when our caregivers tell us, okay, stop crying, I'll give you something to cry about, it is super important for us as a survival mechanism to adjust who we are, suppress what we really are in order to make sure that the people around us think we belong. Yeah. That is an evolutionary advantage. You don't want to be the person who's out hunting, and when the saber-toothed tiger comes, it's like, well, I'll bring both Judith and Sonya along, but I'm going to leave Susie out there. Yeah, because she doesn't really belong, so I'm going to leave her and let them eat her. So what happens is we basically are evolved to make sure we fit in. And when you think of it that way, we are evolved to look for happiness outside of ourselves, because basically we're constantly gauging how we're fitting. And this even happens in the movie. I'll just like mention this, that Riley, her whole thing is like, I'm afraid to tell my parents that I'm sad over the move because they might get mad at her. I mean, and that's so key. Like, how often do we suppress how we feel because somebody might reject us, because they might get mad? And that all falls under that evolutionary imperative of I need to fit in. Yeah. But it's liberating to me to know, like, I'm able to take that judgment out of myself where I would judge myself as weak for needing this, to being like, oh man, that's the operating system of being human. It's not me. Yay.
It means I'm being a good human. It means I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to do.
And then it does make it possible then to start finding happiness and belief in yourself. The minute, like just getting rid of that layer of self-judgment then created an opening to be like, oh, okay, well, maybe I don't have to be looking for my happiness. Maybe it's okay if somebody doesn't like me.
Yeah. That's what I have incorporated, that I'm not everybody's cup of tea into my self-talk, because I do think it's important to think when I think about a student getting mad at me, or I think I'm a department chair. So when I think about somebody in the department not being happy with something that I've decided to do, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. It's okay. It's okay. I'm not threatened. I am safe.
It's so interesting. Yeah, to hear you
I'm going to
say
add that to it.
I've been practicing saying to myself, like, that I accept myself, that it doesn't matter what anyone else's judgment or my own judgment is, that the practice is just being accepting of the self.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. In the moment with things, with my thoughts, thinking of others' thoughts. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
So
even accept my judgment. Like I've gotten better at accepting, oh, look, I'm judging myself. That's so sweet.
Exactly. Yes,
look at
yes.
me. Isn't that cute?
I'm so human.
It's sweet of myself because my brain thinks that that's going to help me somehow to fit in. It's okay.
That's just such a great twist, though. Well, we've got to wind down, but Susie, we like to leave everyone with the call to action or some actionable step that they can take this week. What would you suggest to our listeners if they are looking for, if they are in the pursuit of happiness or they are trying to get into their emotions a little bit more? What can you give them as an actionable step?
Well, one of the things is if you want to generate happiness on your own, certainly it's going to come from your thought. But the one actionable thing is that ironically, trying to think a happy thought won't make you happy. So my actionable thing is that when you're feeling one of those other four emotions or some other version of that, is to bring yourself and tell yourself, ask yourself, am I safe right now? Mm-hmm. And really get clear that you're safe right now. That's when you're going to feel an opening. And then that's when you're going to be able to create whatever you want that will make you happy. So that's my actionable advice is just remember that you can have happiness now, but it does mean reminding yourself that you're safe and that those other feelings are not permanent. There's nothing wrong with you. They're just there to protect you. Yeah. And you can allow them.
Mm-hmm. And ultimately, all of them are just emotions. They are not a destination. They're just part of the experience.
Indicators.
Yeah.
Yeah, the dashboard. Didn't somebody say about like feelings are a dashboard that tells you? Maybe Corinne said that.
Corinne says it, but I think Johnny got it too.
Gay Hendricks also.
I'm like, okay, I know I've heard it somewhere else too.
They probably all say it, which means we should probably be thinking about it that way too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Susie, if our listeners want to find you for coaching, are you on Facebook, Instagram?
I am. So you can find my page on Facebook it's going to be facebook.com/life coach Susie Hansley. So, and I spell Susie SUSIE. You can also look for me on Instagram at life coach Susie Hansley. And I am also on Clubhouse where I do regular talks and coaching and things like that at Life Coach Susie.
And you and I are going to be talking about imposter syndrome. And
yes, we are.
That's probably coming up sooner than I think.
On the 8th. So if y'all are interested, drop a DM to either myself or Sonya, and we will tell you all about it. If you are not yet a member of Clubhouse and you are an Apple phone user, we'd be happy to send you an invite.
Absolutely. All right. And you can find at sonyagreencoaching.com. And Judith?
I'm one of the amazing coaches with the No BS membership. And if you were interested in checking it out, that would be fit.click/free course. And you can learn all about it there.
All right. So 3 amazing coaches all in one place for your pleasure this morning.
Right. Such an honor. Thank you, Susie, so much.
Yes, thank you.
So nice.
We will see you all next week.